The story of Christianity in Ethiopia goes way back. One of the earliest signs of its arrival is found in the Bible, in the Book of Acts chapter 8, verses 26 to 39. It talks about an Ethiopian queen servant who was baptized by Philip. Many people believe this moment marks the beginning of Christianity in Ethiopia. But another tradition tells a different story. It says two young men, Phrynius and Odysseus, brought Christianity to Ethiopia during the time of Emperor Constantine. They preached in the capital city of Aksum. Eventually, the royal family accepted Christianity. Phrynius later met Bishop Athanasius, who appointed him as the bishop of the Ethiopian Church and gave him support. The Bible used by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is very old and unique. Its history goes back to the 4th century A.D., when Christianity first spread to Ethiopia. Back then, the Bible was written in Guizi, an ancient Ethiopian language that is no longer spoken today. This language is still used in church services. Christianity spread quickly in Ethiopia. A traveler named Cosmas, who visited in the 6th century, wrote that Ethiopia was already a Christian country. This was because the rulers supported Christianity, and many Christian refugees came to live there. Most of these newcomers were Monophysites, Christians who had been kicked out of the Roman Empire after a major church meeting called the Council of Chalcedon in 451 A.D. These refugees helped shape the Ethiopian church. They translated religious texts, built churches, started monasteries, and created the foundation of what the church would become. One of the most important early church figures was Abba Garima, who came from the Byzantine Empire and was one of these refugees. He is believed to have written the Gospels that the Ethiopian church still uses today. Over time, the church developed its own form of Christianity, mixing biblical teachings with local traditions. It also includes additional books not found in most other versions of the Bible. These are called pseudepigraphs or apocryphal texts and include books like Enoch, Jubilees, and the Wisdom of Sirach. Today, the Ethiopian Bible is still used in church and is considered a treasure of the country's history and faith. But how is it different from other Bibles? For one, it includes more books. The Ethiopian Orthodox Bible has 81 books, more than the standard 66 found in most Christian Bibles. Besides the Old and New Testaments, it includes extra texts that are usually left out elsewhere. These books contain teachings and stories that the Ethiopian church believes are important. Another big difference is the language. The Ethiopian Bible is written in Guizi. Since this language is no longer spoken and not widely known outside of Ethiopia, it has helped preserve the Bible in its original form for centuries. However, this also makes it harder for people outside Ethiopia to read and understand. The Ethiopian Bible also interprets some events differently than other Christian Bibles. While it tells the same basic story of Jesus, his birth, teachings, miracles, death, and resurrection, the emphasis is slightly different. The Ethiopian church strongly believes in Jesus as both God and man, but tends to focus more on his divine nature. The Virgin Mary is also highly honored, and practices like prayer and fasting are considered very important. Despite how special the Ethiopian Bible is, many people outside of Ethiopia don't know much about it. That's because it hasn't been widely translated into other languages. The Ethiopian church is also smaller and more isolated than many other Christian groups. Its unique traditions, practices, and the inclusion of extra books have made it less familiar to the rest of the world. But in recent years, interest in this ancient Bible has grown. Scholars and translators are working to make it more available to others. One of the most fascinating parts of this Bible is the Garima Gospels. These are considered the oldest surviving illustrated Christian manuscripts. They were discovered in a remote monastery in northern Ethiopia. The Gospels are named after Abba Garima, the monk who is said to have written them. According to legend, he arrived in Ethiopia in the year 494 and, with God's help, copied the Gospels in one day, because God stopped the sun from setting. The Old Testament in the Ethiopian Bible contains books that talk about creation, the history of the Israelites, laws from God, wisdom teachings, and the words of prophets. The New Testament includes the life and teachings of Jesus, the Acts of the Apostles, stories of early Christians, letters written to churches, and the Revelation of John. There are two main Garima manuscripts, Garima I and Garima II. Garima II is believed to be older. Garima 1 has 348 pages, beginning with 11 beautifully illustrated tables followed by gospel texts in Guizi. Garima 2 has 322 pages and includes 17 illustrated pages, including portraits of the gospel writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and a picture of Eusebius of Caesarea, who created the original reference tables. There's even a picture of Solomon's temple or possibly a symbolic fountain of life, showing creative and rare Christian art. These illustrations are done in a style similar to Byzantine art from the 6th century. Some scholars believe the pages were made in Ethiopia, while others think the illustrations may have come from Egypt or Syria. But most agree that the writing itself was done in Ethiopia. The two books are different from each other, which suggests they were copied from a much older translation. This could mean that the Ethiopian version of the Gospels might be older than we thought. Garima 1 still has its original book cover, the oldest known in the world that's still attached to its manuscript. The cover is made of copper, with gold decoration and a wooden base. It has a large cross and holes where jewels once were. The Gospels are stored in the Garima Monastery near Adwa, in Ethiopia's Tigray region, at a very high altitude. It's amazing that these ancient books survived, especially since Ethiopia has gone through Muslim invasions, Italian colonization, and a fire in the 1930s that destroyed part of the monastery. The Garima Gospels were rediscovered by travelers in the 1950s. They took photographs, which helped experts realize how valuable and ancient the manuscripts were. Carbon dating of the manuscripts shows they were made between the years 330 and 650 AD, very close to the time when Abba Garima is said to have lived. Whether or not he truly copied them in one day, it is likely that he held these sacred books in his hands. Blair Pryday of the Ethiopian Heritage Fund once said, "Ethiopia has been overlooked as a source of these fantastic things." Many of these treasures are hidden in remote monasteries, only reachable by climbing mountains. Because they've been kept in dry and dark places, they're well preserved. However, some pages were badly stitched during a restoration in the 1960s and are now being repaired.